no doubt that the issue of future NATO membership for Ukraine will be an issue. I mean, it won't be a topic that just will go away. Actually, during your recent visit to Kiev, you said yourself that the future of Ukraine is within NATO. I know there is a lot of discussion. So how do you intend to address the issue of Ukrainian membership of NATO?
I think that it is obvious that NATO allies, when they meet in July, the heads of state and government, they will send a very clear message of support to Ukraine, and this will be manifested in many different ways. When it comes to membership, I expect that NATO allies will say that Ukraine will become a member of the alliance. This has been stated several times by heads of state and government. All allies also agree that Ukraine has the right to choose its own path. It's not for Moscow to decide what Ukraine can do. It's for Ukraine and 30 NATO allies to decide on the issue of, or 31 NATO allies to decide on the issue of membership. And of course, that also NATO's door remains open. I also expect that we will agree a multi-year program for Ukraine, where we will work on how to help Ukraine to transition from Soviet-era standards, doctrines, equipment to NATO standard doctrines and equipment, and to become fully interoperable with NATO. And of course, to do that also helps them to move towards NATO membership. And then I also strongly believe that all allies will state that, of course, the most urgent task now is to ensure that Ukraine prevails, that President Putin does not win this war, because it's only if Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe that there's any meaning in discussing when and how Ukraine can become a member of the alliance.
Even in the best case, it will take some time to figure out on which conditions Ukraine could eventually join NATO. So the question is, until then, does Ukraine need security guarantees? As you may know, I have co-authored a set of proposals called the Kiev Security Compact that will guarantee security of Ukraine until Ukraine can join NATO. Do you think, in the run-up to Vilnius, that a number of allies could agree on a set of security guarantees for Ukraine?
There are consultations going on, as always, before a summit among allies here at NATO, and also, of course, in capitals. And of course, it's too early for me to preempt the exact conclusions of a meeting of heads of state and government where we have ongoing consultations. But again, I am absolutely certain that all allies realizes that we need to provide military support to Ukraine. More than 150 billion has been provided already in military support, and we had just new announcements from Germany this weekend, more than 2 billion euros, and also the United States. So allies are providing military support. That's important for Ukraine to prevail, to win the war, but also, of course, to strengthen Ukraine after the war, to be able to deter and defend any further aggression. We don't know how this war will end, but what we do know is that when it ends, it is extremely important that we are able to prevent history from repeating itself, meaning that we need to ensure that the pattern we have seen of Russian aggression against neighbors in Georgia in 2008, Crimea in 2014, later on Russia moving into eastern Donbass, and then the full-fledged invasion last year, this has to stop, and the only way to ensure that that stops is partly to ensure that Ukraine has the military strength to deter and defend against further aggression from Russia, but also to find some kind of framework to prevent Russia from, or President Putin from, continue to chip away at European security. Exactly what kind of framework, I cannot tell you now. What I can say is that if NATO allies, and especially, of course, the big ones, starts to issue security guarantees bilaterally to Ukraine, we are very close to Article 5. So there's no way to find an easy solution to these issues. The most important thing is to be very strong in our support to Ukraine, so Ukraine prevail as a sovereign, strong, independent nation in Europe.